Hi folks, how you all doing out there? I hope you are in as good spirits as I am, because you are looking at one very, very happy tarmac terrorist here. So, here I am, bombing around Nürburgring GP in a Ferrari 488 GT Evo in a Assetto Corsa Competizione by Kunos Simulations, and I am absolutely loving it. Absolutely. I'm finding it hard to put into words how much I'm enjoying this at the moment. You see, you ever had the experience of owning a sim? You've spent quite a bit of money on it, you bought all the content, you know it's good from its reputation, from what you hear about it online, and you know people are having a great time with it, so you stick with it. But there's just something fundamental about it which you just can't get it. You can't enjoy it. There's something fundamentally wrong with maybe the way it drives, maybe the way it looks, maybe the view, maybe the sounds, the steering, the brakes. Something's just wrong with it, and you think every time you get into it you just don't enjoy it. And all of this wonderful content that you've got, these wonderful cars, tracks, sounds, graphics, becomes just a useless amount of data on your hard drive that you can't really use. You get to the point where you just stop bothering with it. And then one day you change something, because you might be thinking there's something fundamentally wrong with the sim. You know, you see people sometimes doing this on the forums saying, oh, devs, stop bringing out new content, there's something fundamentally wrong with the game, sort this out before you bring out new content. And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes it's simply just down to a couple of little settings that you haven't really looked at before, or there is a solution to a certain problem you've been having with it. And when you find this one or two settings, it could be in the game, it could be in your hardware, you change these settings and suddenly it goes from a frustrating, grinding experience to, oh my God, am I loving this? So this video is going to be a little story about that, and this could be for any sim. Currently for me right now it's Assetto Corsa Competizione by Kunos. It's just, the experience has gone through the roof for me, and I'm going to try and explain to you in this video why and what I changed to make this. I haven't been able to put it down. I've been playing it every day for the almost the last week. It's just brilliant. Anyway, before all of that, if you want this channel to survive, do me a favor and hit subscribe. May seem like a small thing to do, but it enables me to make more videos for you. By hitting that button you can help us thrive, so I just keep this channel alive. Don't cost nothing, don't take no time. Come on now, keep this channel alive. Please hit subscribe. Please hit subscribe. So, I'm currently driving this car around with an aggressive setup, and I have taken off all of the ABS. I have taken off all of the traction control 1, traction control 2, all of it. So I'm just driving this car really raw, because I really love driving GT cars in several sims, R-Factor 2, Automobilista 2, and of course a set of course that comes with its own. I really enjoy driving these cars, but with all of the electronic aids turned off. And I know, you know, sometimes if you want to be competitive online, you might want to turn some of these things on. They're going to be helpful, but just for pure pleasure, I like doing that. Now, see, here's the problem I was having. I previously was getting to the point where I could not drive this sim without the ABS being turned on to at least one, because if I braked hard without it on anywhere, I'd be flat spotting the tyres before the end of the first lap. You know, I just lock up all the time. And as you can see, I'm driving here and I am braking pretty damn firmly, and I'm not locking up, I'm not flat spotting the tyres, and I'm braking to the point where you can just hear the tyres start to tug. That sound that tells you they're just starting to tug before. There you go, just that sound there. Just before you go into that full-on lock-up skid sound. And I'm having no problem at all. So, that's one thing. Now, the other thing that was really spoiling my experience was because of an issue with the steering, which left me. It was an issue which I sort of put up with for a while, and it's a common issue with this sim, and I thought I could deal with it, but actually it's gradually got to the point where I've just thought, no, this is just not right. I can't have this. Now I'm driving around and I don't mind throwing the car a bit about like that, you see. I've got the confidence now to get the back end out, have a bit of a slide, actually have fun with these cars without feeling like I'm just going to end up in a sand trap or worse, a wall. Look at that, there we go. I'm having a big amount of fun with it and it's feeling great. So these two issues were fundamentally to do with the brakes and to do with the steering. And I've just changed a couple of little things and it's completely transformed my experience. And also, I've kind of found a little kind of a fix to one of those issues, which is an issue with the sim that you need to change a couple of settings to sort out. But I've been able to now half the workload of changing these settings by taking that down and just changing one of the settings. Right, so to show you what I mean, I'm going to have to stop this car and I'm going to have to change the camera, because you need to be able to see my steering wheel on screen and in front of me here. So bear with me whilst I sort that out. Okay, here we go. So this is my screen, this is my wheel. Now, because of lighting, I hope you can see things clearly enough on the screen. Anything that you can't, any small details, I will point out to you, but you should be able to see my wheel just fine, and you should be able to see quite clearly the wheel on screen. So I'm going to go to the options page and I'm going to show you my current control options, and this is what we're looking at. You will notice that I have got, or if you can't see it on screen, I'll tell you now, steer lock is at 0 degrees. Yes, I know, you're thinking 0 degrees, are you mad? Now I've got, as you can see, I've got a FANATEC CSW 2.5 here. It's got 900 degrees of lock, and my settings, I don't know if you can see as I changed the menu on the wheel, because luckily with this wheel and this rim I can actually, without just going into the software, I can change the settings on the wheel. And by the way, these this is specific to my wheel, but this is going to work for most wheels, because most wheels you can change your amount of lock with. You know, most wheels these days, if you've got a decent one, it's 900 degrees or over. So going into sensitivity, my sensitivity is set at 480 degrees of lock. So you might think that's a bit weird. You've got 480 degrees of lock on your wheel, you've got nothing in the steer lock. Now with this sim, what is recommended, especially for this wheel, is setting your steer lock to the maximum lock of your wheel. So I'm now going to set that to 900 as is recommended, and I'm also going to set my wheel sensitivity on my wheel back to 900. Now the major problem with the steering is that there seemingly is, and I've looked all over, I could be wrong. If I am, please tell me in the comments. Also, as well, if any of you have already figured all of this stuff out, still, please, if you could get back to me in the comments, and if you could tell me of any experience you've had where you've changed one little setting in a sim and it's just exploded your experience. I'd love to hear from you. I don't care what sim it is, you know, even if it's one that I don't regularly use, anything. So anyway, we've got our steer lock at 900, and we've got our steer lock at 900 on the wheel. And now what that should give us, if we jump into the car here, is a 1-to-1 steering ratio. And as you'll see, what I mean by that is that the steering wheel on the screen turns at exactly the same rate as the physical steering wheel in front of me. Now the problem with this sim is soft lock. For some reason the sim, unlike say something like R Factor 2 or Automobilista 2, those sims automatically tell your hardware, it tells your hardware what the degrees of steering should be, and it puts a soft lock on. ACC doesn't. So now look, if I turn my wheel all the way around, okay, that is the, as you can see on the screen there, that is the steering wheel stops there. But check out my wheel. Keeps going, another full, more than a full half a turn there, or just about. And that is a problem, because if I was driving around and the back end stepped out, if I was going around a right-handed corner, the back end stepped out to the point where I am full on opposite lock, and I'm looking at the road, remember, I'm not looking at the steering wheel on screen, so I'm just turning the wheel as full as I can. I've already gone past the point where the car's physical lock has stopped. So if the end then snapped back, and I had a chance to catch it and straighten it up, if I was at the same lock on the wheel, if I was, say, there, I could then react and bring it right back, but maybe I've gone past that. So I'm all the way over here, and in that split second, I swing the wheel, it's doing nothing. And that would, you see, that's a problem, because it would make for major problems in catching big slides. And that was just getting me right down. So I decided to try and figure out, and there is, I'm sure a lot of you already know a much easier way of doing this, but I'm just going to show you how to figure out how to sort out the lock yourself, just quickly. So obviously it's going past the lock, so what do? We come back in here to find out the right lock. Go back into your options, go to controls, and say take that down to, let's say, 700. Maybe that's the look that this car actually needs. So that would be, we're trying to find the look of what this car has in real life, which we can see on the screen, but our wheel's going past it. So let's see what happens now. So we're getting to, that's the wheel stopped, and my wheel's still going around about now just over a quarter turn. So obviously that's not correct, because it's still turning over. So we come back, let's lower it a little bit more. So let's take it down to, let's say 6 or 560. Take it down to 560. Okay, and if I can figure out how to get back into the car. Here we go, we're going to turn it round. Hopefully you can see this on screen. And there you go, the wheel's stopping, but my wheel's still going around about maybe, I don't know, an 8th or 7th or 6th of a turn there. So it's still not correct. And that is because this car's steering lock is actually 480. So rather than keep going down in increments and finding that out, you can just go straight to 480. And now, so in game, we're at 480. On the steering wheel, we're still at 900. Now look, there we go. My wheel stops at the same time that the wheel on screen does. However, because my wheel's still set to 900, I'm still turning with a 900 degree lock on the wheel. It's just matching up with the wheel in game. So what we then do As we come to our wheel settings, and we go to sensitivity, and we bring that all the way down to 480 to match the wheel in game. And I know some of you are thinking, yes, Tarmac, we already know this, but there's another thing coming. So right, we've got that to 480 on the wheel, 480 in game. Now look at that, perfect, absolutely perfect. It stops exactly where it's supposed to stop. So now if I get in a slide like I was talking about earlier, we go all the way to the end of the lock. I know I've got to my lock and I'm keeping it there. Back end of the car comes back in, I can whip round the wheel, and it's actually making my physical wheels, or the wheels of the car, come into alignment, and I can catch the slide. So that for me is brilliant. However, trying to work that out for every single car, what its lock is by going through that process, is a monumental amount of time to do, to do that for every car, because every car's got a different steering lock. And the Ferrari and, say, the McLaren are two cars which have got very low steering locks, so all the way down to 480, whereas with the Porsche you've got about 800, something like that. Anyway, so here's the thing. If you don't want all of that hassle, what I've discovered is if you set the steering lock to anything lower than what it would be in said car, the game sort of leaves it where it should be. So you can basically take it to 0, right? Set it at 0, and automatically it will be at the right amount of steering lock for that car. Okay, so steering lock at 0. I don't know if you can see that on screen, but steering lock at 0. So we go back in, and now you'd expect something weird to happen, but it doesn't. There we go, perfect, lock to lock, the correct amount of lock for this car, matched to the wheel on screen and to my wheel. And that's such an improvement for me, because obviously a Ferrari is designed to drive with 480 degrees of lock, so that's what you want, because the guys or the folks at Ferrari have designed it that way, so obviously it's going to drive best that way. Now here's the thing, if you set that to 0, you still got to then know what the lock is for every single car and bring the lock down on your steering wheel under your sensitivity or in your software for your actual wheel. But you don't have to do that, because there are wonderful websites like one I'm going to flash up on screen now. There you go. Go check out that website. Absolutely fantastic. Coach Dave Academy. There's all sorts of great stuff on there. They generally deal with ACC, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and they have races there, they have setups, but they also have that guide that I've just showed you, which shows you the exact lock for each car, because they've already worked it out. So all you need to do is have a look at choose the car you want to drive, have a look at, before you go in game, or alt-tab out of the game, have a look at the website after you've chosen your car, look at the steering lock, and you don't need to muck about with this. You don't need to change that ever again. You just go, okay, so I'm driving my Ferrari. What have I done there? There we go. I'm driving my Ferrari. I know it's at 480 degrees. You set your wheel to 480 degrees. Jump into your game. You've got that set at 0. And brilliant. You've got the correct lock. Saves you loads of time. And it's just made this game, it's even made me feel like the force feedback is working better, which I think isn't actually happening at all. I think that's just a bit of a placebo. It's just knowing when I'm actually at that lock physically, and it's just filled me with confidence. I'm enjoying the driving so much more. So there we go. Now the other thing, and it's a little thing again, and this is a kind of a hardware thing. I changed my brake setup. So I've got a FANATEC Elite pedal set with a load cell brake, a load cell on the brake, and it's well, I tell you what, let me show you. So hopefully you can see that if the camera stayed still. So that is my set of rubber bungs for my damping on my brake pedal. And what I used to have, and what I used to drive all my games with, all my sims, was I decided to make, this comes with several different types of bungs. So some of these black bushings or rubbers here can be of 65, 85 or 95, with 95 being the hardest, 65 being the softest. And then you have this very, very squishy first bung there, which is foam. And I had that set up really stiff with all 65s. In fact, I even took this out and had a 65 there. So it was all rubber bushes. It made the brake pedal very stiff, and that worked well for me in particularly this sim. However, it was too stiff. I ended up getting a lot of, problems with my knee because of the job I do, plus this, putting too much pressure on my knee. So what I decided to do was, I didn't want to have too much travel. So I thought, how can I do that? So what I did, but I wanted it to be a little bit softer. So I put this squishy bung back in for that first initial bit of travel, easy travel. Then two 65s. So it's quite squishy up until there. And then the rest are 95s, which are super hard. And basically, it meant that my biting, I had a nice amount of travel, but not too much. But as soon as it hit those 95s, it got really, really stiff. So there was my breaking point. So when I changed that, I also had to change the sensitivity in the software for the wheel. And in this, it's called brake force. And I had that down at something like 40 or 50 for most other sims. And I could see from the software in the pedal software, when I'm pressing this down, when I reach the extent to where I'd want the biting point to be. So I set that as the same in the software for each game. And it worked fine with Automobilista 2. It worked fine with R Factor 2, both set at about 50. But previously, I had everything at 40 because everything was a lot stiffer. And I left it set at 40 in Assetto Corsa Composizione. Now, like I said, this is my own stubborn fault. I then found out when driving that it's far too soft. I'm going past what I thought is the biting point in the stiffness of the pedal, and the car's locking up all the time. And I had to drive it so delicately. I was scared of the brakes. But for ages I left it like that because I was so sure of myself. It's set correctly in the hardware and it works fine for every other game. It should be the same biting point in every game. Well, it's just not, okay? And it doesn't matter what's right and wrong here. It just isn't. So after about a month of really not enjoying ACC because of this reason and the steering issue, which was gradually getting to me over time, I decided maybe I should just, get off my high horse and change that sensitivity. So I changed the brake sensitivity in the software to 60 rather than 40. And that has solved it for me. Literally, when I get to what I think is the last point of braking on here, on my physical foot down there, it's the same with the brakes in the car. So I can now drive the car without ABS, and I'm loving it. It's brilliant. Let me change the camera again just so I can finish this video off for you. Okay, so there you go. Now, the brake thing obviously is, something I'd kind of forgotten to change after changing a hardware thing. But you might change something in your hardware, forget about that you've done that, and it works okay with most games. You jump into one game and the software just doesn't match up with it. And if you've forgotten that you've done that, then you're thinking, what's going on? So it could be a case of just forgetting something like that. The soft lock thing with the steering, now obviously the best solution for that would be if, I don't know why Kunos haven't made ACC with an automatic soft lock. Obviously if the game did that for you, you wouldn't have any of these hassles at all, and it would be so good. I hope one day Kunos decides to put a soft lock in there. I don't know, maybe they can't, maybe it's the thing with the software, they just can't do it. But it would be it's such an obvious thing that would make the experience so much better. Anyway, for me, it's just those two little changes has just made ACC fantastic. I can slide around with the cars a bit. I'm braking really hard there and I'm not looking up. I can still, of course, if I want to, with no ABS lockup. So let's give ourselves a flat spot. There we go. Now that I've deliberately slammed on the brakes, and have I got a flat spot? Little bit of a flat spot, yeah, quite a big flat spot on the right hand side going there. So yeah, but it's just opened this sim up, and I was getting to the point. I've always enjoyed ACC, but that steering thing just gradually after a while, I thought, no, I can't handle this. It's, you know, it's taking a hell of a lot of the realism. If you had a real car, where the steering wheel turned further than the actual, you know, lock, but didn't do anything to your steering, then it wouldn't be produced. It would be dangerous. So I'm so pleased to have that sorted out. And do go and have a look at Dave Coach or Coach Dave Academy. Some great stuff on there. So thank you to those guys for sorting out or finding those locks. Like I said, you can find it for yourself, but it's so much easier just to go to that site. They're already there, and you don't have to ever change your lock in your software from zero ever again. Just leave it at that. So it's on your steering wheel you've got to change. If you have a story that, you know, any kind of story you've got similar to that about one of your sims, be it Race Room, be it R Factor, be it any of them, one of them listed to ACC, BeamNG, anything where you've just not got on with a certain sim. Maybe it's the field of view, you know, you can't get the right set of speed, or it's just not right for your screen, or there's something with the sound that was never right, and you've had this for months. You were to the point where you know, thought, I can't bother with this anymore. It's so disappointing because there's so much good stuff in here, and you've just got to that point where you've just tried one little thing. Please tell me in the comments what it was. Tell me your story. And that setting, just one little setting. You know, it's not the game being updated, nothing like that. Just one little setting which has made your experience go from frustration to, oh my god, I just, you know, every spare minute I get, I've got to play this sim. It's fantastic. I mean, for me, with the correct steering locks, it's if I drive a car with a steering lock like this, which has got very low steering lock, 480, it feels much more like my experience, maybe in R Factor, where the lock is set automatically. Someone said that that's been broken in a recent update. I hope not. I'm going to go back in and try it. But anyway, I'm going to stop the car there. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I hope this video has been useful for you, or even just something you can relate to. Thanks for watching. If it has been useful for you, well, if you want this channel to survive, do me a favor and hit subscribe. May seem like a small thing to do, but it enables me to make more videos for you. By hitting that button, you can help us thrive. Let's keep this channel alive. Don't cost nothing, don't take no time. Come on now, keep this channel alive.